Hi again. It's been a long time since I recorded a podcast. I've been very busy with clients and quite a bit of writing, but also I feel that I know that as a podcaster, one is supposed to sort of issue podcasts on a very regular basis. But I tend to wait until I have something to say that I think you might find helpful or interesting. And now, I guess, is one of those times. And I'm sort of thinking and reflecting as I say this and wondering really how to explain it in a way that will be of most use to you. So I'm guessing that some of you have children, probably most of you who have children, have experienced the sort of angry outbursts. Those can be from children as young as sort of little toddlers, right the way through to teens and young people. And indeed, actually, that was how I first really came to NLP, because I had been invited to an introductory session on NLP from Sue Knight, who I knew privately, locally. And my first thought really was, well, why do I want to know about NLP? Surely that's something that, you need to know if you work in a company, if you have a proper job, as it were. And if you're sort of working in teams and in corporate, and it's all about leadership and sales and motivating people, working with sort of clients and so on. I thought, how can that have any relevance in my life? And so I went along, I must say, somewhat skeptical. But wow, as soon as Sue started speaking, I was like doing a sort of translation in my head from sort of people working in companies to mums, because I was a mum. Well, I still am a mum, even though my children are grown up. You don't really stop being a mum, although you maybe stop mothering because you get told in no uncertain terms to do that. And I just thought, wow, this is so relevant because mum has to lead, a mum has to motivate, a mum has to build her team, and have sort of set goals, even if they're sort of loose, or what we might call big chunk goals, like get the kids to bed before me. We have to communicate in the best possible way for each child, knowing that each child has a slightly different preference. I didn't know at that time that they were sort of called visual, auditory, and kinesthetic. I just knew that, one child likes this approach, one child prefers this, another one likes the sort of, so you know your own children, don't you? And even though you might not know the NLP terms, you've sort of got the idea that, it's not a one size fits all. But I think what I'm coming onto here that's relevant is that I used to get quite upset when my children were angry. I'm not a shouty person myself. I'm quite quiet, possibly introvert, although I can sort of put on a show, I can sort of present, I can train, I can mix, I can network. But then I have to sort of go back and retire into my quiet space because, a lot of socializing, I find quite draining because I sort of feel it's just too much. So not being a shouty person myself, having a child that sort of shouts at me was quite alarming, and also there was a sense in which, hang on a sec, who's the boss here? And when it didn't really work, when that approach didn't work, I then sort of felt quite emotional. I felt like a complete failure, which is, of course, why I work so much with mums. And why I train my students are all mums, because I do feel that mums can understand better other mums, that sort of sense of, total and utter failure that really I think only a mum understands when it comes to, the child. And And yeah, I just wasn't doing very well, basically. And when I learnt about associating and disassociating in NLP with Sue, I went on from the introductory course to the whole caboodle. I did, the business practitioner, which obviously I translated into a mum practitioner. And then I did the sort of master practitioner, which is all about modeling excellence, which is really about finding where your child has that model of excellence in their life. And it could be on the sports pitch, where they can transfer it to the schoolroom or whatever, the classroom. So I learnt about, and then, sorry, I went on then obviously to do trainers training. I also actually did Jeremy Lazarus's sports practitioner training, which I would recommend too, because I'm very sporty. So I learnt about associating and disassociating, and where that's really important for those of you who have children who have those angry outbursts, is that we have a tendency as mums to associate into that, which means we take it on as our own. Like there's no space between us and them. So they're getting angry, we're feeling emotional. You get a huge sort of, like an energy surge. And in my case, definitely tears. And shouting, which I felt very uncomfortable about and felt really bad. Then I was sort of upset. And from a drama triangle point of view, which you'll have definitely read in many of my posts on Substack, you go from sort of victim, where you feel your child is sort of persecuting you, to persecutor yourself, where you're shouting at them. And remember, you're the adult, they're the child, even if they're, the same size as you as a teen. Basically, you're putting them into victim by being the sort of louder, stronger person with power, certainly. Then what's happening is you're just switching roles, and you end up just really just getting nowhere. So when I learned about disassociating, which is, if you like, just to step away, take the emotional charge out of it, and imagine that you're sort of hovering above the two of you, you and your child in a shouting situation. Imagine you're just taking yourself up and looking down onto the two of you as you're shouting, and then just think, what would somebody else make of that? What's happening here? And when you realize that actually nothing is being achieved by this, and it doesn't need to be emotional. It's quite normal for teens to shout at parents. It's normal for them to express their personal views, to express their feelings. They are going to have different feelings from you. I mean, how can one possibly assume that, your teenager is going to feel the same as you do? Of course, they want to stay out later. They want to push the boundaries. That's what being a teen is all about. So therefore, when you just see it from that point of view, and also remember that you probably did this to your mum as well. I'm sure you did. I certainly did. I certainly remember sort of, being chased around the house by a very angry parent, and me sort of shouting back, and it was definitely quite dramatic. And I can imagine, myself in my mum's situation of sort of thinking, oh my goodness, what am I going to do with this terrible child? And thank God, that we all grow out of that perhaps. But so what I'm saying is, hover above, disassociate, take the emotional charge out of it. They don't hate you. They love you. They're simply pushing the boundaries. And part of that comes from a place of fear. Part of it comes from a place of, if I push the boundaries, does she still love me? Is she still going to be there for me? They're testing you. So they're coming from a place of fear, really, as well. And the anger onion is something I've described in a very recent post. Look at what was the feeling in that moment. What was going on? What was the fear? What was the feeling? What did you make it mean? In the situation I've described with me and a teenage daughter, what happened there really was I was making it all about me. That doesn't make me a narcissist. It simply makes me a loving mother who is trying to do her best, as indeed you are. You're trying to do your best. And when it doesn't seem to be your best, you take it on as your own responsibility, your own stuff. It's your fault. You're a failure, all of this stuff. But just stop right there and just step back, disassociate, and just look at it from the point of view of we're talking teen, child, and mum or dad. They simply want to be heard. They don't necessarily want to get their own way. After all, if they always got their own way and there were no boundaries, there was nothing that they couldn't do, that's pretty scary. They do actually want to know that, you are on this, you are taking some, decisions and responsibility for ensuring that they are safe and that they are actually doing what they're supposed to be doing. So by disassociating, you then can come away from the situation. Take some deep breaths, remind yourself they are just being a teen. This is normal behavior. This isn't about me. They're simply testing the water, expressing themselves. And when you've just breathed into that, and I would use some tapping, some EFT tapping. So you would just tap the side of your hand and just calm down a little bit. Even though they're just being a teen and I'm finding this a struggle, I love and accept myself anyway. And you do that 3 times. You just say whatever it is that is relevant to you in the moment, and then tap the tapping points. You can get free tapping diagrams off my website. There's absolutely loads of videos on my video channel, and just tap through the tapping points. And just breathe and say, this is hard, all this shouting, all this anger. I can't cope with this. I'm tired. And then just tap into it. And then when you're ready, when you've calmed down, just maybe put your hands to your heart. Breathe in a color which feels like a color. For me, immediately what comes to mind is green, which is the color of the heart chakra. Green for calm, for peace. And just breathe that green in and maybe just send it out around you into your energy field. Your child has maybe stormed off and they're perhaps in your bedroom on their phone to their friends saying, oh God, my mum's an absolute disaster or whatever. And then just push it out into your energy field. And then when you have calmed down completely, just pop back in, check in with them and say, right, okay, can we talk about this again? I'm open to whatever it is that you want to say, and I love you, and it's easy. Let's have a chat now that I feel more resourced, and then you can have that conversation. With anger, with angry outbursts, with all of this stuff. One of the NLP beliefs or presuppositions is that behind every behavior, there's a positive intention. And this is something I feel so strongly. When mums call me up and want me to work with their child and they're talking about their bad behavior, their unacceptable, disrespectful behavior and so on, my very first thought relates to the drama triangle, the persecutor position. That has come from victim. Children do not wake up in the morning saying, I'm going to terrorize my mum or my dad. It comes from a place of victim. There's some way in which they feel they're not being seen, heard, felt. They feel not good enough, unimportant, they don't matter. They've come from victim. So behind every behavior is a positive intention to be heard, to be seen, to be loved, to matter. So when you are experiencing behavior that is you find unacceptable, just step away, disassociate. And when you can have a conversation to find out what it is that this is all about. And it might not be about what they're shouting about. Sometimes children or teens will shout about one thing, but actually it relates to something else. So maybe they've done something you didn't like, you've told them off, but actually just before that, something happened with a sibling. Maybe they were told off at school, maybe they couldn't do their homework. There could be something else that happened before. So we use clean language. Clean language is really helpful with children, and just ask them, what happened just before? Has anything happened earlier in the day that maybe you want to talk about? Because sometimes, as I said, it can just be something triggers you and you react, but actually it's because you were already feeling tired, sorry for yourself, put upon, not appreciated, not heard, etc. Well, children obviously feel like that too. So I think really what I'm saying is, behind every behavior, there's a positive intention. It's our job as parents to be curious. What could it possibly be? And rather than just saying, why did you get angry? Why this? What happened? What's happened for you to feel like this? What happened just before? What is it that, what is it you want to tell me? What's going on? How can I help? Or the cleanest of all languages, just listen. Just listen to them. They need to be able to have your attention, and they need some autonomy to express their feelings and their views, even if you don't agree with them. And you probably won't, because they are the next generation. They're going to have different views, different priorities. It's up to us to listen and to accept, I think, and to hear them and to acknowledge them without feeling the need to judge them. Because is it really our place to judge? I think we can have a view, but accept that that's how they're feeling in the moment, and all they need from you is to be heard and to be loved. Okay, I think that's probably enough on that subject, but I hope you've learned something about associating and disassociating. Associating is being in the emotion as if it's your emotion as they get angry. Disassociating is taking the emotional sting out of it and stepping away. Okay, hope you found that helpful.